from What's Your Language. This is chakra number 2, talking on the sacral chakra. But as I was just doing that previous video, I mentioned I have about 10 kangaroos outside of my room here at Alicia Wellness Retreat in the Hunter Valley. And they just literally started fighting. And when they fight, they're really, really loud. So I'll let them do their thing. We're going to do our thing in here. Now, this, of course, is the recordings for my Clear Your Chakras course. That we'll be releasing with my book, What's Your Language? But I'm offering this content to you guys free as I record it live here on YouTube. And of course, when the book comes out, this will be offered as part of my 3 courses that are coming with my book, What's Your Language? So I would firstly love to say thank you for being here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Just by clicking the buttons, it really helps me to help you. And if you have any questions, please post them down in the comments below so that I can get back to them for you as well. Now, I have already shared, of course, 2 videos already, which is the introduction as to where we are going in this Clear Chakras course. It is a very basic overview. This is to give you a bit of an idea of the mind and body connection so that when things show up in our bodies, we can actually ask the question, oh, wow, why is this showing up? What are you here to teach me, rather than judge it or get frustrated? And of course, this will just allow ourselves to dive into the emotion, of course, that is linked into blocking each of these chakras. So I really recommend going back and watching the root chakra video first, and then coming back to this one. I'm aiming to just keep them 30 minutes. I just want to share this basic information. As I said, this is something I really hone in on, this and the basics of Ayurveda, which all tie into the Be Here method, which again, if you're watching this course, it's likely you have got my book, What's Your Language? And it's about coming back to presence so we can acknowledge the things that are showing up so we can do something about them. So they all tie in, and this is what I offer in my 6 or 12-week coaching programs. Now, before I dive in, this is actually a really interesting sort of part today. I just want to share this story because at the moment across New South Wales, I'm sharing workshops. It's actually on my 2nd book called The Perfection Pandemic. And it is just about really diving into our true authentic selves without the need to be any different or fit an image of what we think we need to look like on social media. And I've woken up this morning with like a really big red zit on my face. I shared a photo over my Instagram actually this morning and also on my Facebook page. Now, I had a choice when I woke up this morning. I'm speaking tonight here at Alicia. There's maybe 60 guests, and I had the choice to wake up this morning and either really feel depleted or to feel to judge myself or to criticize my skin when I woke up. Or I have the choice to actually go, wow, thank you, body. Like I'm right in the middle of my periods, which I never used to get because I spent 27, 28 years in disordered eating. So when things show up, such as like blemished skin and bloatedness and things like that, I've now really learned to say thank you. I've really learned to go, you know what? Thank you, pimple, for showing up. Thank you, bloated belly, for showing up. And even down to things like lower back pain, because it's showing me that I need to actually pull it back into myself. So yeah, this morning I really thank this pimple that's on my chin, and I was like, wow, thank you. It shows me that my body is back in flow. I'm getting my monthlies and it's working. It's beautiful. And the other reason is because it just feels so much better to say thank you than to criticize it. So the energy of thank you compared to, oh, I hate the way I look today, or, I've got this big pimple, I've got to try and hide it, is just so different. And, it's so easy these days to just go on an app such as Facetune or Me Too or Snow or Perfect Me or any of the body editing apps and smudge it out, right? Along with that, I can smudge out my wrinkle lines, I can clear my skin, I can make it smoother. Not only that, but of course, adjust every single part of my body, not just in a photo, but in a body. And that, if we're doing that and, blurring out a pimple or whatever, well, what's the point? The pimple's going to be there anyway. The wrinkles are going to be there anyway. We may as well just love it for how it is. We're human. Things show up. And the reason we might choose to edit our photos or our real face with a body editing app is maybe telling us we need to come back to loving ourselves a little bit more. So there's always a message under anything that shows up. I wanted to start with that because it is something that's very real, and I always like to just share things that are happening as they go. Now, this is the sacral chakra. I'll be sharing from my notes because, of course, when you get this course, the Clear Chakras, you'll be receiving the notes as well. And I, as many of you know, I'm really big on repetition in movement and also in my coaching as well, because we have practiced our dialogue, our behaviors, and our actions, some of us for over 30 years. So we need to be repetitive with the choice to start to change it. Otherwise, nothing changes. We'll do it for a week or so and we're like, oh, nothing's changed. You've got to remember these neural pathways are like cemented beliefs that have been years and years and years of practice, because it is practice, because everything we practice grows stronger. So I will be repeating a few things. You will hear a lot of information tying in, especially if you get the second course, Free Your Flow, which dives into our heart space, right? Which is somewhere like a lot of us don't want to dive into. I didn't dive into this for 30 years. And I talk about samskaras and the impressions that are blocked in our energy centers, which again, I speak about that in the very first video. So go back and watch that. I will put it somewhere up in the corner here. Cool, let's do it. The orange, the chakra that is located in our sacral area, of course, is orange. Svadhisthana is its name. And the right of this chakra is to feel, right? So taking it back a little bit to the root chakra. Our root chakra, the element is earth. It is our center for survival. It is blocked by fear. Okay, so with our chakras, the energy is moving up. So let's move now into this second one. So we now start to get this kind of flowing energy, right? Where we've got this real roots down, grounded, first chakra. And now we start to move up as we start to get the ball rolling, so to speak, right? So the element of this chakra is water, right? It has to flow. And we all know that if things aren't flowing, then, we're going to get pretty stuck, right? And stuck in many ways, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Things just won't move. And of course, we're going to have massive digestive issues if our energy, prana, is not flowing, especially through this area. All right, the location of this chakra is around the coccyx, of course, the sacrum, the lower spine, so all of your lower vertebra. Think about the area in and around the pubic bone, the hips, even into the groins, as well, and even down to the skin. It's very much related to the senses and touch. Now, this chakra is all about pleasure. And I'm just going to hover on this for a second. For many of us, we've grown, especially females and males, we've grown up in a world where it's been almost put down or not talked about to experience pleasure, to really feel this innate sense of us that wants to feel good. Sometimes, myself included, I know that I would travel through life, and the moment I started feeling good, I'm like, oh, I can't go there. I can't celebrate that. I've got to pull it back a bit. And the same goes for our sexual energy as well. We are here to experience pleasure. And many of us, and especially myself, this is something that I only recently have been moving through over the last couple of years, to allow myself to really experience sexual pleasure. And again, if we don't allow ourselves to do this, we end up with blockages in our system as well. Right, so as I mentioned, the right of this chakra is to feel. Right, the right of this chakra is to feel. Again, coming from the root chakra, the right of the root chakra is the right to be here, the right to feel warranted, the right to be enough, the right to be loved, the right to be worthy, the right to be nurtured. We now move into this right to feel, to experience. This chakra is the center of emotions, right? So if we are not feeling, we are blocking our emotions, right? And again, I did that for 30 years. If you read my book, you'd know that. I ran and I numbed from my emotions for 30 years because I didn't want to feel what I didn't want to heal. I was too scared to go there. All right. Now, the emotion that blocks this chakra is a big one. It's guilt. Now, I hope that over these teachings, these messages on the chakras, this can just open your mind a little bit to actually question, am I getting this somatic response, this physiological response in my body due to a situation I'm holding on to from 10, 20, 50 years ago? Now, I speak very openly in my book and also on YouTube. My dear mum, Robin, held on to the guilt that she felt from my eating disorder. She held on to that for 30 or so years. She thought that the eating disorder was my fault, was her fault. And as a mother, I understand, but it wasn't anything to do with her. And mum has finally realized that over the years that it was actually my own choices and my own decisions and my own dialogue, actions, and behavior that had nothing to do with mum, because we always see things through our own eyes. And the eating disorder was my choice and it was nothing to do with anybody else. However, guilt is experienced everywhere, and that doesn't just have to be an eating disorder. So it's a really common thing for parents or mothers to feel guilt for an experience that a child has gone through. But I hope that this allows you to realize you don't need to hold on to it anymore. You've held on to it long enough. If you're interested in watching that video on my mum and her conversation with me around the guilt and shame that she held, thinking that my eating disorder was her fault, I'll put the link down in the comments. Love you, mum. So the name of this chakra again is Svadhisthana. It means one's own sweet place, right? It is this beautiful connection to others and ourselves. It is our creative selves, right? Our authentic selves. It is the start of this flow of energy, confidence, sexuality, sensuality. It is our connection to the womb, our fertility, of course, our reproductive organs. It is our emotional realm, right? Again, this right to feel. It is all about flow and flexibility. And if you look at that area, that is right in the area of our digestive system as well. So I mentioned before that this area is in and around our sacral area, and there is really so much that goes on here. And one thing that a lot of people, including myself, experience a lot of is this bloating in and around the area. I'm not here to talk on stress. I will touch on it as we go through this course. I'll be talking more on stress and how that shows in the body in Free Your Flow. But of course, if we are holding on to blocked emotions and also traveling through a really heightened stress state, like we're living in our fight-flight system, which many of us are doing in the world we live in today. It's estimated that we are in our fight-flight system 150 times a day, which is pretty full on, which means that we are not actually able to let our digestive system do its thing. It temporarily shuts down because we are preparing the body to run from the so-called threat. It thinks we're running from the tiger or running from the lion, or we are in a state to survive. So of course all the blood goes to the fingers and the toes and the feet and the limbs, and we feel it. We get this huge adrenaline rush, but the digestive system shuts down temporarily. So things again get stuck. Now it's a whole nother conversation, but just be aware that stress, right, and also blocked emotions and energy is going to have a massive effect on these lower digestive organs. And of course, the buildup of that ama, toxicity, is then going to escalate to inflammation, sickness, and disease, which I'm going to touch on as we go through that. Okay, so I just want to touch on our sexual energy for a moment, because we all have it and it's a part of us, and it's something I shut down for many, many years. I went through sexual trauma at about the age of 9. I talk about it openly in my book. I hold no judgment. I hold no blame. I've cleared out that blockage. But what I did do when it did happen, I actually pushed it down for probably about 20 years. And I literally forgot about it because I was so ashamed and I felt so guilty that I thought, if I push this deep down in my body, and I don't feel it, and I do the things to try to be perfect, and if I do the things to be liked and to people please, then I'm going to be a good person. Now, again, I talk about that in depth in my book, but I'm really just touching the surface here. I actually forgot about that for 20 years. I forgot that that actually even happened. It was something where Deb Dana, in her book, the polyvagal theory, talks on this polyvagal theory. It's fascinating work, and again, I dive into the polyvagal theory into my coaching. But we, in our nervous systems, we have a state called our dorsal vagal nervous system. We have our dorsal vagal and our ventral vagal. They are the two branches of the parasympathetic nervous system. And then, of course, we have our survival state, our fight, flight. Now, when we shift into this dorsal vagal nervous system, it's actually our freeze response. And that's what we tend to do when we're in deep trauma, or we have something unfold in front of us that is, we just want to numb it out. We literally freeze. It's like a lizard with its tail when they're in fight mode and they can't fight, so they literally, their tail falls off. Or the mountain goats, and when they're triggered, they just fall over and they pretend and play dead. So that was the state that I obviously went in when I pushed this emotion down. 20 years later, I started to do the work. I'd started to do my yoga teacher training. I'd started to dive in because I had pushed down many emotions for years, and I was in a state of I was very unwell. My hair was falling out. I was constantly sick. My digestive system wasn't working. I wasn't getting my periods. This was in my 30s. I was exceptionally unwell, and I got forced to do the work. So when I was walking on the beach at the age of 34, I was listening to a podcast from Lewis Howes on his own sexual trauma, and this story came up with him. And straight away, because I was open to receiving and open to healing, the memories flooded back. I remember ringing my mom and asking her, "Mom, did this actually happen?" And she went dead quiet on the phone, and she sort of said, I thought you'd forgotten. Nothing we store away ever gets forgotten. In fact, it literally builds energy and momentum over the years. And if we don't release it, it will come out. It will come out at a time later in our life, and we'll become rigid. We'll become very stuck in our ways. We'll become angry and frustrated and just consistently battling with tension, because this emotion has been stored deep. So we will live with judgment, with comparison, with guilt, and with blame for the rest of our lives if we don't allow ourselves to forgive. Now, again, I dive into that because it is in relation to this chakra. And it is exceptionally common that for many of us, we have experienced some sort of sexual trauma in our lives. And I just invite, if this is somewhat resonating with you, or that this resonates with someone in your family, and it feels like the right time to dive in and do the work, it is now time to become compassionate with yourself and to heal that inner child, to actually sit down and ask your inner child, all right, what is it that I need to tell you? What is it I need to share with you? How can I talk to you in order to understand what's happened, so that I can now forgive this old part of myself, because that's not true for me anymore, and step into the self that I am now and move forward from there. So reach out, get in touch, but there are many ways and modalities to do this. But we are so much better off to do the work than to not. Trust me, I've been there. I've experienced it with loved ones that have held on to emotions for nearly 70 years. Nothing is worth holding on to, I promise you. So this chakra, we are going to just talk about that. We're not going to talk at all. I can't talk at the moment, clearly. This chakra, I'm going to share with you what it's like to be in the body, so mentally, physically, and emotionally, what you'll feel. We're going to start with what you will notice, right, in your body if the chakra is unbalanced. So you're going to lack a lot of energy, right? You're not going to feel in flow state. You're going to struggle to make decisions because we feel tired and exhausted or not confident in ourselves. You'll feel numb and you'll feel out of touch. So it's very common in this chakra. If there is an imbalance, you will look to substances and addictive behaviors to scoot over the emotions we don't want to feel. So I did that consistently, right? That's what an eating disorder is all about, right? I was using this to control the deep rooted thought of not feeling enough. So then the eating disorder went to drugs, to alcohol, to sex, to online shopping, back to alcohol, back to drugs. And then I broke, right? I realized that I couldn't do this anymore, right? Again, so it's anyone who is experiencing quite addictive behaviors, there is always usually a story underneath it that's possibly linked into guilt, the emotion. That is now our chance and opportunity to forgive that, to say thank you for showing up, guilt, for letting me know that I can actually choose now to let this go. I've held on to it long enough, right? So we will be stuck, rigid, unmoving, right? We're going to have like tight hips, sore lower back pain. We won't be able to pee or poop properly. Things are going to get stuck. Body fluids stuck and stagnant, right? So we'll find that our digestive system is really not very happy at all. It's not moving like water. In fact, it's kind of gone to clay, right? Tired, exhausted, flat, unmotivated, lack sex drive, or scared of sex. It can also tip the other way, right? So we can be excessive in this chakra, and that's using sex too much, or becoming addicted to sex, or being addicted to porn. Again, numbing from what we don't want to feel. We can also, again, this is sort of more that I go into the coaching, but with our emotions, I suppress them and I push them down, but in an excessive elevation of this chakra, what you might notice is that as a child, you were constantly quite loud with emotions, or constantly saying how you felt, or maybe it was constantly like screaming or feeling your feelings and being told to shut up all the time, or being told to quiet down your emotions, or being told to to just put a smile on that dial. So all of these things can be excessive, or go the other way as well. And it all sort of comes down to an excess in this chakra. So what I wanted to also share here is that this chakra, I mentioned for the root chakra, our root chakra is between the age of being in our womb to the age of about 1, whereas here we're sort of looking around sort of that 6 months to 2 years period, which is, of course, the period where we're creative. We are curious, we explore, we figure out what's right or wrong for us. We're developing our paradigm, our program. We're pushing people's edges. We're seeing how far we can go. So if we were told at a young age to buckle up, buttercup, or to that big girls don't cry, then we're going to learn to suppress our emotions. If we weren't able to express them fully as a child, then we're going to learn that suppressing them is part of our program. So it's about unraveling all that as we get older. And again, the other way, as I mentioned before, if we were too loud, if we were crying all the time, or trying to get everyone's attention, we realize now as an adult that people just, they walk away from us. We can become too loud in that sense. And when we voice our emotions, we get scared to do that. So it's so interesting. A lot of this stuff, of course, is linked back down to our childhood, and that's not to judge it or to criticize it. It simply is what it is. And a lot of our parenting going back generations is just a blueprint copied down from what we experienced as parents, from our own parents and their parents, unless we become conscious to be able to change the paradigm, to change the program, to change the practiced response, to get a different reaction. So it's just being aware of these things. It's never ever to judge. It just is what it is. It's just creating awareness. Okay. So again, this fear around sex and pleasure is a really common one. And as I said, it inhibited myself and also my own self-worth, because our self-worth is our sexual pleasure, whether you like it or not. When we feel sexy and empowered in our bodies, and we embrace that, and we're not scared to say what we want in the bedroom or say what we want for ourselves, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's beautiful. And when we lean into that, I cannot tell you how powerful that is. You start to really step into your higher self. You start to step into your power, and you start to step into your authenticity. And that's when we start not giving a really flying fuck about what anybody else thinks, because you're comfortable in your own skin to say what it is you really want, right? So what we will also experience here when we're unbalanced is sadness, mild depression. We'll feel lonely, a deep sense of lack or longing for something to complete us, or not feeling enough. So of course, myself going through the eating disorder for 27 years, that was exactly where I had landed. I was constantly looking for things on the external to fill the cup that I needed to and that meant that I actually needed to come back to my own self-love, not look for it in the external, as in things, as in a body, as in the way I needed to look, and on my social media feed. So psychological effects, we're going to experience things such as low self-confidence, dependency on others, low sex drive, or too high. Even as far as eating disorders, or any food addictions into that space. We are going to feel the desire to become addicted to something, to numb from the emotions that are too heavy. The ability to not feel or express. I really struggled to cry. For many years, I didn't even know how to express tears through my 20s. It was only until my mid 30s that I really started crying again. And now every time I cry, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for letting this emotion come out. It's an amazing thing to allow ourselves to feel again, because feeling means we're alive. Uh, Too often we are going through this life and think, oh my God, I shouldn't be feeling that. I shouldn't be feeling my anxiety, or I shouldn't be feeling this fear, or I shouldn't be feeling this depression, or whatever it is. And we actually try to run for it. And it's really about giving ourselves permission to feel these emotions as they arise and be in them in the moment. In Buddhism, they say it's to simply just see it as it is. And too often we're like, oh, this is, I can't be here, this is bad. We label it. But I want to encourage you that when we do feel anxious, or when we do feel fear or doubt or worry, or judging ourselves, or in a space where we're angry or frustrated, feel it first. Sitting there, the emotion only lasts like 60 to 90 seconds. You can feel it. You can actually ask yourself, what are you here to teach me? And you can dive in a little bit deeper to investigate what that emotion is trying to tell you, right? So super, super important to feel. Even any of these sayings are in relation to this chakra, maybe you were told to toughen up, or big girls don't cry. I've mentioned that, to man up, right? Or what's another one that I've spoken about in my book? Or she'll be right, mate. Just scoot over it, kind of thing. But this all plays a role in establishing our paradigm, our program, as to our blueprint, as to how we move forward from about the age of 7. These are our programmed beliefs, or limiting beliefs, that we keep coming back to as we start to move into our teenage years, into our work life, and of course, then into our adulting, our relationships, and the relationships we have with ourselves. Right. So it can tend to be our story as adults if we don't do the work to shift it. Right, physically, of course, what you're going to notice if you're unbalanced is urinary tract infections, kidney issues, right? So again, high stress, tension, holding on, blocked flow, chronic lumbar pain. I suffered low back pain for like 10 years. Now when my low back starts to aggravate, which it has been a little bit over the last couple of weeks, because I've been on a real pressure point with getting the book done. I know I've stepped into stress, but I've had to do it. And I'm just honoring it. I'm like, I see you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you. I'll be gentle with you. All right, what is it you need? Some yoga, or a walk out in nature, nurturing, some sleep, pausing, right? I'm nurturing it instead of judging it, right? Pain or tightness or blockages in our intestines. We're going to notice issues with our bladder, incontinence, poor sex drive, right? Bloated, imbalanced periods, or none at all, infertility. The small of the back can be aggravated, really tight and aggressive hips, problems with our groins, our adductors, and of course, genital issues. All right. So what we want to share here now in these last 5 minutes or so is, what can we do? All right. We need to feel, right? This chakra is blocked by guilt. So when the guilt shows up, right? When we're triggered in our environment, sometimes you're not going to know what it is. And again, I speak on this more in Free Your Flow, and I talked on our samskaras at the start. If we've pushed down guilt and we're traveling through life and everything's all good and rosy, and then we drive down a street, and we used to live there with an ex, and we immediately blame ourselves for something we did because the relationship is now not together. So we feel guilty for something we've done, and we go right back on that train. So immediately we're triggered in our environment, right? That takes us right back to that moment when we were living together, and we then go back into that old story. So we're right back there living in our past, living in the guilt and the shame, right? So we haven't cleared it, right? It's still there. By driving down that street, it's triggered that emotion. That's a samskara. That's a block. If you're not sure what that is, go back to the first video and have a look. Now, what we need to do when that comes up, instead of pushing it back down, it's coming up for a reason. We need to actually feel and go, whoa, why am I feeling like this? Thank you. Thank you for the trigger. I put on my Instagram post today, Instagram, watch.yat.language, is use your triggers as your teachers. When this guilt comes up, say, thank you. I'm noticing, I'm closing. Take a breath, soften, open. What are you here to teach me? Oh, wow, this reminds me of a situation that happened 10 years ago. This reminds me of something that happened when I was 6. All right, have I forgiven myself for that? Why am I still holding on to that? Can I possibly forgive this inner child? Can I possibly lean in and take the time to actually say thank you for showing up, but you're not a part of me anymore. I choose to forgive you and let you go, because what you have is now. You have this moment. You can choose to hang on to the guilt of our past, of the things we've said and done, the shoulda, couldas and wouldas, but that is no fun, and that is absolutely no way to live. None. I guarantee you it is not true for you anymore unless you choose to believe it to be. So unless you choose to want to hold on to that and keep letting it come up through your life, which it will run or ruin the rest of your life. So when it comes up, it's going to be uncomfortable. Feel it. Sit with it. Journal it out. Go, my goodness, that was to do with something that happened when I was 7. I see you. I feel you. And it's okay. I give myself permission to forgive. All right? And again, we go through that in the coaching, and do it as often as you need. You're going to need to do it over and over and over again. Trust me, because you've held on to it for quite a while. Some of us 20, 30, 40, like my nan, 70 years. You do not want to take this to your grave. You do not want to take this to your grave. Trust me, I've seen it. Don't do that. Oh, I get emotional when I talk about it because I've experienced it firsthand. I've experienced someone holding on to their guilt and shame for 70 years. And we have this life, this one given life right now to live, to be a light for others, to be a light for our kids, to be a freaking light for ourselves, to feel good. But we keep hanging on to the past. So you are now here watching this video and you have a choice because now you're aware. So with that choice, I encourage you to do the work, right? Get up and move, right? You know, I'm a movement teacher. I love it because movement shifts the shit. So scream into a pillow, do something safe. Don't take it out on another person. When you feel this energy come up, you got to move it. I have plenty of movement practices on my YouTube channel. Do some yoga, do some movement, do some boxing with someone with pads, not on someone, right? Pound a couch, like literally get your fists and pound a couch. Scream in somewhere safe, scream into a pillow, scream with the windows shut in your house. Get it out, let it go. Don't worry about what anybody thinks. Do you get this energy out? It is asking for your attention, right? Hip mobility, right? Maybe you're sitting in a chair too much and that's aggravating your hips as well. Right, again, you will see heaps of practices on my YouTube. Again, I'll put one down in the comments. Move your hips, dance, have sex. Have sex for pleasure. Sexually pleasure yourself. Go onto Rosie Reese's site and get yourself a pleasure wand. Right, if you're a guy, you know how to do that if you're a guy, but literally pleasure yourself. This is more the women I'm talking to here, allow yourself to enjoy. Far out. It is our right to feel. Do some yin, shake it up, do some free flow movement. The joint work routine is really nice here. Again, I'll pop it in the comments. Guys, move, like let that energy come out. This chakra is demanding your attention. It demanded mine for over 30 years. I could talk on this chakra for hours, but if you do feel the need to reach out, and if you want to have a conversation around this, please comment below, get in touch on my DMs, jump on my Instagram page, watch.yak.language. I do have some small coaching spaces available. The chakras are just so important because we learn about how we can heal ourselves from the inside out. If you are just focusing on the body, right, and you are not exploring the things that show up in your body, the bloating, the tight shoulders, the back pain, the inflammation, the sickness, the disease, you're really not offering yourself the truth of who you are. You're just scooting above the surface, and I guarantee you it's going to come up again in 5 years, in 10 years, and we're going to carry it with us for the rest of our life until we dive in and do the work. The time is now. For all of us, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Not at all. We do not know if we're going to get tomorrow. So why do we choose to hold on? Thank you so much for jumping on this course, guys. My next video, of course, is on the Naval Center, which is the center for our power, right? It is blocked by shame, right? And this is a really, really beautiful power. It's our fire energy. It is this energy that burns through everything. It is our self-esteem and our confidence. I can't wait to get into that one. So these two chakras work really well. Guilt and shame, we've all experienced it. We've all experienced it, and it's now time to give ourselves permission to choose to let it go. Biggest love, everybody. And again, any comments, any questions, post them below. If you haven't yet ordered my book, it is out at the end of May. For those of you who have, thank you so much. You can jump over to my website, watchyourlanguage.com, when it's out, and order your copy of Watch Your Language.